Hi, I'm Dick Wagner with the Crest Network. Successful people avoid negative behaviors. It's no secret. Successful people don't hang around people with negative behaviors, and successful people don't engage in negative thinking. It's often referred to as below the line thinking. And that typically means that those that are in that negative mode, they're often whining that it's not fair. You've heard your kids say it many times. That's not fair. They claim that it's not their fault. Accountability is a big deal in positive thinking. And when they say it's not my fault, they're buying into the negative. Many times they cry, not necessarily literally, but they cry that they just can't handle this awful situation. That's below the line thinking. That's negative thinking. Others engage in wishful thinking. They wish they could write a book, or they wish they could be great at public speaking. Many times they have goals that are unrealistic. Engaging in absurdity that just simply isn't going to happen. That's what wishful thinking is. Kind of like embracing fantastical dreaming. Boy, I sure would love to land that client, but they make zero effort toward doing that. Often, negative people choose to remain powerless, and they simply don't speak up for themselves. I have heard so many people over the years say, oh my gosh, I could never do public speaking. I don't know how they do that. Well, the fact of the matter is, yes, you could. You can do public speaking. It's not that big a deal. But there's lots of places you can go to get good at it. But when you choose to just simply say, I could never do whatever it is, you're choosing to be negative. Failing to speak up, defend yourself, and contribute to a situation is also being negative. You need to step up to the plate, speak up, say your mind in a polite, professional manner. Many people, by remaining negative, simply avoid to tackle any new challenges. They don't want to stress themselves out. They don't want to go outside the box. Sadly, many people won't advocate for themselves as well. It's a horrible, negative situation, and we all know people that are in that mode. Number 4, put off or won't invest in themselves. So many people say, oh, geez, I just don't have the time to invest in whatever it is. I don't have the time to learn that new skill. Or I simply don't have the energy, or I don't have the knowledge or the brains to engage in or start or learn that new thing or activity. Some of them even say, I don't have time to read books. Many times they just simply choose not to invest in training and education for themselves. A lot of times they rationalize that as, well, I don't know if I'm really worth the money to spend on that. It's pretty pricey. Negative people resist change, kicking and screaming. They fight it with all their worth. They will go out of their way to resist change. One of my previous short webinar videos talks about why employees resist change. You should watch that. It's very enlightening. They complain about a particular situation, or they complain about an event that in many cases they could have some control over or have some effect to, but they just choose not to. They just choose to complain. We've all heard that this is the way it's always been done. Boy, that's resisting change. Many times we're just simply stuck in a rut. We just don't want to embrace the new because we're comfortable in the old. We're comfortable with status quo. We're comfortable with the way it is. And I, as a coach working with salespeople almost every day of the week, constantly hear of salespeople that are looking to blame something else, and they don't want to be held accountable. They don't want to fill out a daily activity report because they don't want the accountability. That's in part resisting change, because if I ask them to fill out a daily activity report and they find 50 reasons why they can't or won't or don't, that's resisting change. And from a management position, you need to get rid of them if they won't be held accountable. Number 6, there are a lot of people engaging in negative behaviors where they just simply honor everybody else's priorities and they say yes to everybody else because they want to be a yes person. They want to be liked. They want people to think well of them. And they just simply try to master everybody else's issues, be the hero, and they fail to handle their own. Folks, you have a legacy. You're building a legacy. You are going to one day look back on that legacy, or someone is, and if you don't know what your legacy should be or what you want it to be, you're in trouble. If you want to be the master of your legacy, you set the priorities, you decide what you're going to do for yourself and if you're going to do anything for others. It's up to you. Number 7, constantly doubting themselves. Geez, I don't know. I'm just not sure. Boy, I've never done anything like this before. They don't trust their gut or their instinct. Women are really good at having good instinct. They do trust their gut, and when they do, they're usually right. Always wanting to be a perfectionist. This was one of my thorns in the side for many years of my earlier adult life. I thought whatever I did had to be perfect, whether it's creating a brochure or a flyer or presenting a sales presentation. I wanted perfect. The reality, folks, as you know, is we can't be perfect. You will never achieve perfection. And so it has often been said, sometimes 95% is good enough. Now, I always add, you don't want a pilot that lands a plane correctly 95% of the time. Because if you happen to be on that plane the other 5%, boy, it's been nice knowing you, maybe. Don't always second guess everything. And remember, every one of us has a blind spot. Every one of us has, as one of my old bosses many years ago said, Dick, you've got a flat spot. I've since learned that what he meant is that I've got a blind spot. I've got a place where it's a bias, it's the wrong perception, it's a hang up, it's one of those things that I am not really good at, but I won't acknowledge it. Realize that we have blind spots, every one of us, and address the blind spots, try to overcome them and solve them, and move on with life knowing, hey, I'm not going to be perfect, and I am going to have some blind spots, but I'm going to try to reduce or eliminate as many of those blind spots as I can. Sadly, also, too many people are searching for handouts. They're searching for freebies. They want easy answers to sometimes difficult situations. You've run into them. You've had them. They want special favors. And they always want special favors. And they keep asking for special favors. And they don't want to pay for them. Whether they don't want to pay for them in a form of money, or they don't want to pay for them in the form of some sort of reciprocity. They constantly want special favors. Another way for you to not be caught up in the negative behavior is not setting bogus expectations. If you say to yourself, I'm going to generate $2 million in sales this year, is that a bogus expectation? Well, if you did 1,900,000 last year, that's probably okay. But if you sold 112,000 last year, telling yourself you're going to do $2 million in sales this year, that's a bogus expectation. It's not realistic, and it's almost assured to not happen. Folks, you have to understand that nothing is free. The old "there's no free lunch" kind of thing, that's generally pretty accurate. You don't get free handouts for most things. Failing to understand that easy answers, and we all search for them, but easy answers are rarely useful. Very unlikely do we get easy answers that solve or answer the problem. It's just not in the cards. It doesn't work that way. Remember this, commit it to memory. Positive people know that their success is directly proportionate to the effort that they put into it. Folks, too many times in a negative mode, we apologize. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Folks, you don't have to say you're sorry for saying no. You don't have to say you're sorry for taking my time. It should say my time. And you can even spin that. You don't have to say sorry for taking me time. That's the time you set aside for yourself. You don't have to apologize for setting your priorities and working toward those priorities. You don't have to apologize for ending a toxic relationship. It's not your fault, and you don't have to apologize for it. There's no apology for standing your ground. That's being strong, and that's being positive. There's no reason why you can't delay your answer or a response to something while you evaluate it, while you think about it, while you come to a logical decision, even if that's a gut or instinct decision. And absolutely, positively, don't ever apologize for telling the truth. I'm Dick Wagner. You've been watching the Crest Network, and we've been talking about negative behaviors. I hope I brought something great to the table for you today. Talk to you next time.